Many people believe that the International Space Station videos and the spacewalk footages are all fake, and NASA is just using Hollywood-style techniques to fool us. So I'm gonna show you all the ridiculous and funny bloopers and mistakes that they ever made, and we're gonna ask the question, if these footages are fake, then what is it that you can see up in the sky and you believe it's the I.S.S? So how is it possible? And we have a lot of other questions, so let's talk about it. NASA has been caught endless times making huge mistakes in their videos and in their live streams. So we're gonna do two things today. First, I'm gonna show you how they do all these magic tricks, how can you see things floating around them, and a lot of other things, all the bloopers and funny things. And after, we will ask some serious questions about the construction and the maintenance of the I.S.S, or what is it that you see up in the sky, and you can even track it with the I.S.S tracker, and some other very important questions. So we're gonna do some critical thinking together, and we will expose this huge magic trick with all the details. Welcome to Mystery Teachings, my name is Gergo. If you are new to the channel, then welcome and namaste. Or if you are a returning beautiful soul, hey, thanks for coming back, I appreciate you. Okay, let's start with this old footage. This is from 1966. So this alone tells you and shows you that the fakery has always been the case. Unless you really want to believe that this guy is in space. And my absolute favorite is when you see the Earth. There you go. That's the Earth. I mean, you know, people believe this in 1966. And as I said, this shows you that they've been fooled us in the entire time. Now, here is another one from 1984, when this astronaut performed an untethered spacewalk to capture that satellite. Now, first of all, this would be so dangerous, NASA would never allow this to happen. And second, the I.S.S is moving at 17,500 miles per hour. That tells you everything, but we're gonna talk about that in a moment. And this is the next one. This is about the green screen. That's what I want to start with. So on the left, that's the I.S.S footage. On the right, you can see that this guy is about to fall, and that's a big distance over there. And what happens is that you realize that this is just fakery. So this is why I want to start with the green screen. Here is a perfect example that this guy is being filmed and he's catching some food in the air, and there's some crisps and everything. And this is what happens when they put together the footage in a professional way. And these are the I.S.S glitches. You can see it with his hand and the green stuff behind him. The same thing on this one. As he moves his hand, you can see the green stuff in the background. And then we have this guy who, if we look at it a bit closer and a bit slower, this is a virtual reality glitch basically, which we're gonna talk about a little bit later. But you can see that his hand goes through the wires. Now, how is that possible? And then in this one, the gas goes out, and the other one, ta-da! Where did he come from? And then we have our football player, because the serious scientists must play football on the I.S.S. And if we look at it one more time, you can see his head, and that tells you everything. And then here is another one. The guy shows you, oh look, I'm above the Earth. Check this out, guys. and then when you see there's a fly there on the right side. Now this is not my footage, I didn't put that arrow there, but if you look at it, first you can see that it just flies around and then it walks from bottom to top. And obviously we can ask the question whether if it's inside or outside the glass. How is that possible? None of that is possible. There cannot be a fly on, on inside the space station nor outside in space. None of this is possible. And then we have this one. This was a massive glitch. The astronauts just say goodbye basically, and look at how they're gonna disappear from the photo. So they always need to play with the microphone, obviously. They say bye-bye, and this is what happens. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Why is this happening? And there's the green stuff. Okay, here is an I.S.S. live stream, and did you see that? The clouds, whoops, it's just changing, shoot. And this is live stream. Here is the next one, the feet. Look at the feet on the way there, and now when he comes back, now, can you see that? Another green screen glitch. So, and guys, there's plenty. And then here is this guy. If we slow it down a bit, something interesting happening there. You can see it. So there's plenty of examples. I really just show you a few. And then we got this one. Look at the guy's face as he comes in. Okay, this is another one which is blue screen, which is pretty much the same as green screen. This is how they record it. And then this is the final version. Oh, look, they're above the Earth. They are on the I.S.S. doing the spacewalk. And let me show you two examples from Dave Weiss, aka Flat Earth Dave. He's someone educating people about Flat Earth. And this is his footage. It's him in the green suit, and that's his wife. And basically they just show you, and they have zero budget, that how easy it is to fool you with this entire space footage.
To munch on, so I don't want to give GMOs any publicity, but it's all we had hanging around. Yum, yum, yum.
So this is what it is, and it's quite funny. But not only that, I looked it up on Amazon, and guess how much does it cost you to do this? The green screen and the suit, altogether $12 plus $25, so we talk about less than $40, which is maybe £35 here in the UK. So this is how much it costs if you really want to spend money on it. But remember from the previous part, NASA has $64 million a day. And then here is another footage from Dave. He recorded this, and it looks like it's in space and it's in the I.S.S. But if you wait a little bit, I don't even need to tell you what happens, because it's only the sky recorded. And this is the space station example. They're filmed in an underwater pool, which I mentioned in the previous part, and we'll talk about more a little bit later in this video. But this is how easy it is, and we just believe it. And even this famous photo about the I.S.S., I'm sure you've seen it, or you've seen some similar ones, and this is how they do it. So, you know, it raises a lot of questions, that's what I'm saying. Now let's move on to the wires and harnesses, and I think I don't really need to comment on that, so I just let you enjoy the footage.
quiet as well.
And this is me on the space station. Look, I'm in space. And obviously you can tell it's not perfect, you can tell it's a green screen. But guys, I have zero budget and I don't have perfect green screen technology or 64 million a day, unfortunately. I wish. And so if you think about it, another important thing with these wires is why their heads are always in this position. Well, if you look at this photo, that gives you the answer. Okay, let's talk about this giant pool which I mentioned in the previous part. This is the NASA Bouyancy Lab in Houston, Texas, with an exact replica of the I.S.S. Coincidence? Yeah, I know, they just trained there, and actually I could find it on Google Earth. This is my screen video, so I just searched for the Bouyancy Lab and I jump in the water on Google Earth and I could find some divers and I look around, I move a bit and you see every small detail of the I.S.S. Oh, there's an astronaut, there you go. I'm sure this is just for training. And they need the camera as well, because in the control room they need to see what's going on. There's the guy with the camera. So I'm sure this is all for training. But we're gonna expose this in a second because we can see bubbles and other problems with this entire footage, which I'm gonna show you in a moment. But first, here is a short clip from Blue World.
Blue World takes me on adventures all over the planet. Today's adventure takes me to the Johnson Space Center at NASA in Houston, Texas.
And I'm standing on the International Space Station!
Well, not exactly. I'm standing on an underwater full-size replica of the International Space Station in a gigantic indoor swimming pool. Here they train astronauts to work in zero gravity by simulating these conditions underwater. A swimming pool nearly the size of a football field. I descend into the clearest water I've ever seen, and it looks like an underwater movie set. And it looks like an underwater movie set. The pool is a staggering 40 feet deep, and everywhere I look are full-size replica sections of the International Space Station. I take a few minutes to explore the pool. I can see from one end to the other very clearly, meaning that the underwater visibility is over 200 feet. Each astronaut is carefully weighted to be precisely neutrally buoyant. Hey, they don't call it the Neutral Buoyancy Lab for nothing. Once weighted properly, the astronauts hover in the water as if floating in the weightlessness of space. The divers are also responsible for keeping a careful eye on everything happening. Each astronaut has 4 divers assigned to him or her. 2 are safety divers. Another has a camera with a cable going to the control room. And there are more cameras mounted all over the inside of the pool, too. Later, I have the opportunity to meet Ron Guerin, a real astronaut. He has spent nearly half a year in space and more than 27 hours spacewalking. So you know what I had to ask him.
You gotta tell me what it's like to be in space.
What's it like to be in space? Well, it's a lot like being in the pool here. It's a lot like being in the pool here.
So we have a lot of problems with this swimming pool stuff, as I said before. This is the control room, and there you can see a green screen just above the lady's head. Now, if it's only for training, this entire swimming pool, then why is there a green screen over there?
Wildest imaginations never envisioned this scenario. An astronaut drowning in a spacesuit on a spacewalk 260 miles above planet Earth.
Drowning inside his own helmet.
Caused him to nearly drown inside of his own suit.
Water in his helmet?
It's an incredible story.
Harrowing. Almost unfathomable.
Unbelievable.
This was one they had never envisioned.
So I experienced what it's like to be a goldfish in a fishbowl.
Hey, let's use a diaper. I thought that's a clever solution to this problem.
Yeah, pretty neat. They also came up with the snorkel idea too, you know.
Makeshift snorkels.
This snorkel, if water is encroaching your face, the crew member can lean down and use this to breathe.
They're ripping that spacesuit apart, trying to figure out where all that water came from. Not like there are that many options when you're out on a spacewalk.
Water in space.
I.S.S. says they cannot guarantee the helmet won't fill with water again.
And obviously if you fill the helmet, you can't breathe.
Scary story. Glad he made out okay. That's a leak.
Oh, it's an explained leak.
A significant leak.
You know, when I was commanding the International Space Station, we had a significant coolant leak.
I imagine there are no insignificant leaks in space.
You know, these things do happen.
It's not, you know, something we don't have plans for.
But, you know,
you're in space.
You're in space, which means it's much more difficult to fix.
It's a pretty big problem.
And this is not the only problem, because we can see a lot of footages when you can find bubbles in these underwater pool footages. I mean space footages. And there are endless examples, so I just show you a few and we continue after.
So many times during spacewalks outside the International Space Station, we can see air bubbles rising up. Can you touch on how there are air bubbles in space?
Can you be more specific? Air bubbles?
So yeah, like a lot of times during the footage, the NASA footage, you can see bubbles coming up out of the helmets or kind of from underneath you. How do you explain bubbles in space?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. You might. Now sometimes you get water in the helmet, and it comes. It's either you know, from sweat or from the cooling garments. And you know, in some of my spacewalks, I had like water in the helmet. Not like I was going to drown in the helmet, but just little bits of water. Probably came from sweat. Often on the outside of the space station, you'll liberate little pieces of, you know, it's a really harsh environment out there, and the outside of the space station gets beat up pretty good. And sometimes, you know, you'll see just little flecks of paint or something that you might have disrupted floating away from the suit. And, you know, that's generally what that is. I've never seen any kind of air bubble anywhere.
Yeah. Could it be that you're filming in an underwater pool and you're not really out there?
Would find out that all the spacewalks were filmed underwater?
Thanks, sir.
Do you have any comment on that?
Well, we train underwater.
Oh, okay. But only training?
Only training.
Okay.
There's now clear evidence of NASA using numerous methods to grossly mislead the public about astronauts being on the International Space Station. During interior I.S.S. scenes from NASA's own live feed, the use of wires, harnesses, green screens, and virtual reality have been detected to achieve the appearance of a weightless environment. Examples of this include astronauts fading in and out of the screen, green screen glitches, grabbing objects that aren't really there, pulling on invisible wires, This begs the obvious question. If they're really up there, why are they using Hollywood techniques to fake the footage? Air bubbles have been recorded on numerous occasions. How is it possible for air bubbles to be present in the vacuum of space? In 2013, astronaut Luca Parmitano nearly drowned during a spacewalk when his helmet filled with water. This happened again just last year. Air bubbles, helmets filling with water, and drowning. Are they in space or are they underwater? Now, what's really interesting is that they train for spacewalks in an underwater pool with a complete ISS replica. Now, surely they aren't filming these spacewalks in an underwater pool and then editing them to appear if they're in space, because that sure would be something, wouldn't it? I'm calling on the Brevard County Commissioners to open a full investigation into NASA's fraudulent practices and use of taxpayer dollars. It costs NASA $3 billion per year to operate the ISS, and if they don't have a darn good explanation as to why they're faking these videos, I and the public would like a darn good explanation as to where our tax money is going. And if they are indeed faking the funk, it is our duty to expose and eliminate this fraudulent and astronomically wasteful ISS program.
Okay, and I have one more for you, which is my absolute favorite. This footage alone tells you exactly what's going on. Look at it and tell me if this is in space or this is in water.
Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, he tried it.
Oh boy, I guess this is a good example when NASA had a bad day in the office. But let's move on and talk about how things can float around the astronauts, and let me show you a short clip from a documentary about the virtual reality.
It became instantly clear how they do it. And it's just video game technology. Now, if you're part of the geek squad or the techie crowd, well, then you already know about this technology. And so let's get to the video that caught my attention, and you will see the same things that I saw. Let's watch.
We have to introduce the concept of free fall. So let's use this model of the Earth. And let's enlist the help of a friend, Patsy. You might know her.
So what is significant about this video is, number one, it was live to school children. Number two, we have this stuffed animal that is transitioning in on another video channel. And the actor is able to reach up and grab this doll in real 3D space and manipulate this doll with their hands. And so the only way you're going to pull that off is with one technology. And that technology is virtual reality. More importantly, though, something called augmented virtual reality. This is taking the objects in 3D space from a virtual reality world and putting them in our world on another screen, which we can see, manipulate, and touch with virtual reality contacts or glasses. In this next segment, I'm going to show you how NASA grabs objects in 3D space, rotates them around, manipulates them. They can do this with water, with cloth, anything. And the cool thing about it is we can take what they're doing, what they're seeing with their contact virtual reality augmented lenses, and put that on a separate video layer live. Yes, live. And do it all in real time. 45 minutes straight of NASA messing up the virtual reality setup. I tried to pick some clips that were obvious and some not so obvious. Show you some of the contacts. We're going to see Tim Peake with his contacts in, but these are virtual reality contacts overlaid on the eyes so actors can interact with things in 3D space, all in real time. In this next shot, we will get to see the whole arm setup and the virtual reality glove that covers all the way down the arm and hand. This allows the software to broadcast what we see video-wise as his arm in a shirt sleeve. Okay, I have a lot of Tim Peake screw-ups, but this one here, this system glitches. The software does not track his hand properly, and Tim slips his hand underneath his other fingers, which is tightly holding onto the mic, which would be impossible. I don't think this is Tim's fault. Normally, Tim always moves his other fingers up while he slides his hand under. I just think the system didn't respond to his movements here. It's virtual reality. He's they're wearing augmented contact lenses so that they can interact with these 3D objects. Now, in this scene, the guy on the left in the green shirt, he thinks he sees an object in 3D space that's being broadcast to him. So he grabs it and he puts it off to the side. He's looking straight ahead because he's looking at an object rotating in front of him, but the video channel is down that is supposed to show the viewers what we're supposed to see, and so we don't actually get to see the object that he has seen. And I would just sum this up as a very terrible, bad, horrible day for NASA doing live feeds.
Okay, now let me show you the absolute ridiculous stuff that I have for you. So first we have a physical curvature which always changing its size around the I.S.S. But okay, I'm fine with that. I'm even fine with the fact that the astronaut puts his boots on the wrong feet. So the left is on the right and the right is on the left. But this is the one that really tells you how much they are laughing at us. So you want to tell me that they send up supply on a rocket and they carefully measuring all the weight, but they can even pack a gorilla suit. And look how this guy hits everything. It's kicking the back, and I mean, isn't that life-saving stuff over there? It just all looks so scientific, right? Now let me show you what happens when they actually tell us the truth and they tell us where they really are.
And I played a lot of sports. And all of that happened in a little town called York, Maine, across the United States from where we're talking to you right now.
Houston is called Space City because NASA's Johnson Space Center is the home of human spaceflight. We design the missions, train the crews, and orchestrate the flights from right here in Houston. Houston was the first to receive words from the surface of the moon, and the next giant leap will also start right here in Houston.
Right here in Houston.
You can even find the entire space station on Google Earth, Johnson Space Center, Building 9, and if I'm not wrong, they already removed this from Google Earth, so you can't find it anymore. But you can even see these flags, which is always there in the I.S.S. live stream, just like how I showed you.
Right here in Houston.
And then we have this one when the astronauts do some very serious work, and this is what the control room tells them.
Okay, that's a little bit more. So we can see your hand now. We can see your thumb.
We can see your hand now. We can see your thumb. I mean, you don't need to be a scientist to figure it out what would happen with their hand and with the human body in a vacuum of space and in minus 250 degrees, which is the space temperature, if their thumb would actually be out of the gloves. And this is my absolute favorite, some Chinese space footage. Just look at that guy who's floating there and the speed of the Earth. That's already telling you a lot. And then this is the other one. I mean, look at the rotation of the Earth, and it just goes further and further. I mean, how are they gonna go back to the Earth? How are they gonna do that? And look at that spinning speed. What is it like? We have 20 seconds daytime and then 20 seconds nighttime. And no, the Earth is getting too far. Oh no, the same thing here. It's even spinning faster. Like, again, how long would the day and the night last if this was an actual speed? And they are just floating there. It's brilliant. And then we got this one. I mean, the guy who's standing there. And you know, you never see stars or planets or satellites or anything on the spacewalk footages, but these guys have planets and the entire cosmos around them, thanks to China. And here is another example when you see the same thing. Is this look real for you? And then let's see a very funny answer to a simple question.
So my question is, how can you operate a lid on the outside of the space station by manipulating something mechanical on the inside of the space station without losing air pressure?
It's called real good engineering.
Hello? Hello? Anybody home? Hi.
Now let's talk about gravity, which we're gonna do in much more details in a separate episode. But if we look at these footages, there's always some issue. I mean, that guy is just drinking, putting down the glass, and then we have another Chinese one. These are the astronauts saying hi, and somehow the water does not float. Or we have the Christmas footages from 1999 when apparently there was gravity, and then 2 decades later they already have technology to put the gravity off.
Some of you may be familiar with the old experiment about the hammer and the feather. Well, in this case, our feather will be played here by this 4 of spades. And you may expect everything up here in microgravity to float, because most everything does float. However, sometimes something a little different happens. Sometimes you just might find a little pocket of gravity.
Yeah, we have some pocket gravity, sure, but why does that pocket gravity not affect the hammer, only the card? And guys, how do they do it? How does this guy do it? He's just someone from, I think, Instagram or TikTok. We do have technology to do this. This is another good example when gravity works, and just look at their faces, how much they are panicking when the guy on the right will drop that little ball. Here we go, he's dropping it now, and everyone, oh, they want to pick it up, and the lady just say, no, leave it, it's fine, it's absolutely fine. You know, these things tell you that they are fooling us. Now, let's talk about more and further of how they create weightlessness. So here is a short clip about a zero-G plane and what it does.
Weightlessness. Why imagine it when you can actually experience it? Just hop on a zero-gravity plane and you'll be weightless.
Weightlessness.
In no time, all without ever having to leave Earth. Planes that allow you to experience weightlessness aren't that different from typical passenger aircraft. Most zero-G flights occur on Airbuses. So how does a zero-gravity flight work? Planes fly along a radical flight pattern resembling a parabola. 3 pilots simultaneously control the plane during parabolic flight, each in charge of a specific axis. One pilot controls the pitch of the plane, or the nose-up and nose-down angle. This is the most difficult of the 3 axes to control. A second pilot controls the roll movement, keeping the wings horizontal and stable. The third pilot handles the engine speed and monitors flight parameters. After reaching a safe altitude, one of the pilots starts a sharp climb, lifting the nose of the plane up by 50 degrees. This is the pull-up, the upward approach toward the peak of the parabola. The plane peaks at 426 miles per hour during this maneuver, subjecting everyone on board to a gravitational force 1.8 times greater than what's on the ground for about 20 seconds. Once the pull-up is complete, the plane can finally enter the phase of weightlessness. The pilots gradually reduce the plane's engine speed as it approaches the peak of the parabola, and then it free falls. At this point, there's a brief 22-second window where the opposing forces of gravity and the falling plane immediately cancel each other out. Thus, there's weightlessness. These 22 seconds start and end at an altitude of roughly 25,000 feet, peaking at nearly 28,000 feet in the air. The plane then enters the pull-out phase of its flight path. It accelerates downward, subjecting passengers once again to 1.8 G before stabilizing to a more conventional horizontal path. So what does this feel like? The sudden shift can cause blood to rapidly flow to your head, which could be very nauseating for some. This is why zero-gravity planes are also known as the vomit comet. Despite the initial discomfort, people are able to do all sorts of things during zero-gravity flight. Some people board these flights as part of their astronaut training. Others use the unique conditions of zero-gravity flight to perform scientific experiments. Creatively inclined people have even shot music videos
Were you scared? Were you cold? Were you kind?
And films on these flights. The possibilities are endless, and the best part is anyone could book themselves a flight on a zero-gravity plane and do whatever they want.
And as I said multiple times before, this is not just NASA, this is not just one space agency, but all of them. This is the Russian Roscosmos, and you can even see their logo on the side of the plane. The same thing what they do, and apparently this is only for training. I'm sure it is. Now, if we compare a footage from the zero-G plane, which is the top one, and the space station, which is the bottom one, I think it pretty much looks the same. So, as I said, you decide. Here is another example, and you can see how they just fall to the side, and they told us that it was, I don't even know what was the explanation, something in orbit, probably some, I don't know, because they move at 17,500 miles per hour. Now, another thing you can notice is how the guy on the bottom, he's catching that tape and another object with one hand. Now, that looks like he practiced this many times, so he knows exactly what he's doing. Now, if we look at again the zero-G plane footage and we turn this one just 90 degrees and we compare the two, it looks exactly the same. So again, we talk about the footage many years ago. Another example that tells you a lot is the woman's hair on the I.S.S. You can see how their hair is just moving absolutely not naturally. It looks like they use many bottles of hairspray or whatever, and especially on this one, again, that's how it looks when it naturally floats on the zero-G plane. And look at the lady on the I.S.S. I mean, what's going on with her hair? Okay, so I think you already saw enough. I don't need to show you more bloopers probably. So as I said at the beginning, let's ask some serious questions and do some thinking together. So the I.S.S. is orbiting Earth at a speed of approximately 17,500 miles per hour. At this speed, the I.S.S. orbits Earth every 90 minutes, which means the crew experiences 16 sunrises and sunsets each day. Okay, wonderful. So it's supposedly flying faster than a speeding bullet, but the astronauts are easily floating around and go outside for spacewalks, no problem whatsoever. We know during spacewalk they are tethered to the I.S.S. while they are traveling at those insane speeds, but there's no sensation of that speed. You never see any motion blur or any realistic effects of such speed in their videos. And they also film spacewalks for hours without any space debris. Now, why is this important? Because we have millions of pieces of space debris orbiting Earth. Let me show you a short clip about that, and we're gonna put the puzzle together even further.
More than 130 million pieces of space debris are orbiting Earth. As space exploration increases, researchers advise we need to clean up before the situation worsens.
As big as a discarded rocket or as small as a microscopic chip of paint, space debris is orbiting all around us.
Okay, now let's connect the dots even further. A short reminder of what I said in part 2. So we know that the Earth orbits the Sun at 66,000 miles per hour, and the solar system is moving through the galaxy at 500,000 miles per hour. Meanwhile, the space station orbits Earth at 17,500 miles per hour. And on top of that, we have these millions of pieces of space debris orbiting Earth, plus we have thousands of satellites also orbiting Earth, but astronauts never get hit by anything during spacewalks. The I.S.S. never collides with debris or other satellites. I mean, just the satellites alone, which we're gonna talk about in a separate episode. There's a lot when it comes to satellites, and we will discuss all the details about them. But the point is that we never see anything flying past in the background. No satellites, no debris, no stars, no planets, nothing. And on top of that, there are 0 impact marks on the ISS after 25 years of zooming through space. But when you think about it, even the tiniest piece of space debris at that orbital speed should rip through the ISS like a bullet through paper. And honestly, I was never thinking about this before I started this investigation, but it's wild that people don't question this, never. And they also say that they can track and avoid these debris, but how can they possibly detect and maneuver away from those tiny fragments traveling at tens of thousands of miles per hour? It's like trying to avoid a mosquito while you are driving a racing car blindfolded. If we go even further, let's talk about the construction of the ISS, because it was supposedly assembled in space. There was many countries involved and hundreds of components were launched separately on different rockets. Then they put it all together in low Earth orbit while traveling at 17,500 miles per hour. No gravity, no stable platform, just floating astronauts with their tools, and somehow it all fits together perfectly. No issues with alignment, with pressure sealing, with the electrical systems, with the life support, or even the international hardware compatibility. Because as I said, it was with multiple countries involved. Everything just worked perfectly without ever being tested together on Earth. I mean, again, it's wild that no one questions why we didn't just build a smaller test version here on Earth first. Or why there are never any major breakdowns or replacements or any problems. Now, I'm not an engineer, but when it comes to engineering, all these systems and the assembly of them would require endless adjustments, even when built in controlled environments. But somehow NASA and its friends built the biggest modular structure in human history in the vacuum of space, and it still runs perfectly 24/7 for over 25 years. Okay, I still have more for you because someone sent me this video after the previous part telling me that how can I say space is not real when here is a video of the ISS. But what is this? I'm not here to tell you what is it that you see, but I'm here to show you a couple of things that will give you some clues. So first, let me show you this Google search of this US patent. Feel free to do this for yourself. You just need to type it in Google, and then you have this triangular spacecraft pattern. This is what it looks like, and I know it doesn't look like the ISS at all, but stay with me. So this is a spacecraft having a triangular hull with vertical electrostatic line charges on each corner that produce a horizontal electric field parallel to the sides of the hull. This field interacting with a plane wave emitted by antennas on the side of the hull generates a force per volume combining both lift and propulsion. This is just one example. Here is another one which you can also Google, and there's many more. I just give you some examples. This other spacecraft which pretty much doing the same. So what I'm saying is that we do have technology that doesn't require fueling, and they can just stay in the air by using electrostatics basically, and they can stay up there for who knows how long. And here is a few photos just from Google search, and I'm sure you haven't seen many of these, and you maybe didn't even know they exist. I didn't know before I did this research. I mean, just that one on the top left, doesn't it look similar to the ISS? So again, I don't want to tell you what is it that you see here. What I want to tell you is that we do have technology. Just because we don't know the answer, it doesn't mean that it must be the ISS and there's no other explanation, because I just showed you that there is other explanation, and this was just a few examples. So guys, I don't want to offend anyone really, but my opinion on NASA changed drastically since I started this research. That's all I'm saying. And we still didn't finish because I have some really good bonuses for you. And I know this video is getting a bit too long, but I still want to give you 2 bonuses. So I hope you don't mind and I hope you will enjoy. Here is the first one. So that was the recent Katy Perry space flight. And this is when the rocket was launched. It's called New Shepard, which tells you a lot because, you know, the shepherd is the one who looks after the sheep. So I think they just laughing at us again. And we can argue all day whether this is real footage or this is just some CGI. So I don't want to go into those details. What I want to show you is one example here when the spacecraft arrived back on Earth and then they walk around. And since they were in space, we talk about a pressurized capsule. It has to be pressurized and they are able to, you know, breathe oxygen inside. So otherwise they would be in life danger. And then you can see that the door opens from the inside and they rush there and they, no, not yet. Oh no, wait, we are not there yet. Because they even tell you a little bit later that Jeff Bezos, who is the boss at Blue Origin, he has his little tool that he's gonna open the spacecraft door with. And that's what you see later. So that's just one example. There were a lot of other videos on the internet recently about this. Another one that people mentioned, this little space badge that they all used, all these 6 ladies, and they pointed out that if you turn this upside down, you can see the symbol of Baal or Baphomet, which is actually not the same thing. So just to break it down really quickly, there's a slight difference between the two. So if you want, read it for yourself. But Baal is basically a false god who I don't even want to read it, as I said. Just read it for yourself, because I just don't want to use these words. I was banned before. My other video was deleted when I made a video about the Vatican. So just read it for yourself. That's Baal, and then this is Baphomet, who is a symbol of that one with the S and with the L, and this tells you a lot. And you know, even the media reported that a lot of people believed that this was fake. I mean, I'm wondering why. If you saw that footage, it just really strange. So this was the first thing I wanted to show you, and the second one is also from this year 2025, when we had these astronauts who went up to space last June for a couple of days, and they stuck in space, and now thanks to SpaceX they arrived back. Now the first thing I was going to show you about this is that someone put this footage in an AI software, an AI detector software, to figure it out if it has any AI generated content in it.
Let's see what it comes up with. And 18 minutes later, here is our result. Overall, the video is likely to contain AI generated or deepfake content.
Now what I really want to show you is something I just randomly found on Facebook. So I was scrolling on my Facebook and I saw this interview with one of the astronaut lady, and I went to the comments, and that tells a lot. Just look at what people say. You were never gone, load of rubbish, a lot of Hollywood basement, nobody was stranded there, they never went. And I just keep scrolling and scrolling, and all I see that people, it says this one, that it gives me a boost knowing people are waking up. The lesson here is that it's always fake, absolute BS. You know, stop the lies. You were hidden somewhere, living comfortably. And then someone says, oh, so many rude people. And then NASA plane in underwater, whatever it was, swimming pool, lying right to your faces. So What I want to say with this is we don't really need to prove or disprove whether they actually been out there. My point is, which I mentioned many times, that the Great Awakening, the spiritual awakening that we are experiencing on a daily basis is going bigger and bigger and more mainstream every single day. Just look at these comments. Most people are aware of what's going on. And let me just continue with another quote, as I usually do. It's easier to fool people than to convince them that they have been fooled. And I think that tells you everything. But when it comes to space, we still didn't finish, because there's still one more area that we didn't talk about. And that's the moon landing. And to be honest, you don't need to be a flat earther to be aware that the moon landing wasn't real, let's just say it this way, because barely anyone believes in it anymore. So first I was thinking just to skip this topic and go to our next flat earth related topic, but you know what? It's not just the American moon landing, but the Russian, the Chinese, the Indian, and all the others who are doing this over and over to fool us. So I want to expose it all once and for all, and after we can move on this journey. So let's do a big funny moon landing episode, and I'll see you with that in part 9. Stay blessed.